right, so I think that we can start now, if that's all right. If not, people who keep joining, they'll be more than welcome, but I think it's a good moment to start. Okay, so everybody, welcome to the Insurtech Breakfast. My name is Gabriela Trujillo, and I'm part of the incredible team at HITS Insurtech Switzerland. It's my pleasure to be back live with the Insurtech Breakfast, and I can see already some familiar faces. And for the newcomers, welcome, welcome. This space was created to open up interesting conversations and to share the expertise of our peers. It would be great if we can see your faces. So if you're feeling like it, you're more than welcome to turn on your cameras. Just remember that today's session will be recorded and will be shared later on for those who couldn't join us this morning live. Today, we're bringing you a very trendy topic, the Metaverse. So how many times have you heard this word in different type of conversations and wonder the depth of it? So the possibilities are endless, but today we're delighted to welcome Simon, our innovation lead and Metaverse expert, who will take you through what it is, the potential, the current state, and the next use cases of this Reality Reimagined. Remember that at the end, we will have a Q&A and you can ask all the questions. But if you would like to intervene or just say something, just raise your hand or write your questions or your comments in the chat and I will read them later on. Okay, so yes, Simon, the stage is yours and welcome.
All right. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by giving you a bit of an overview of what we're covering in today's episode of the Insurtech Breakfast. I'm going to start by briefly introducing myself so you know who's talking to you. Afterwards, I'll tell you why we're talking about the Metaverse, what it is or could be, how new the concept really is, which technologies and trends are enabling the Metaverse boom, if the Metaverse will threaten real-life human interactions and connections, what companies are using the Metaverse for, and how they could profit from this. Afterwards, my colleague M is going to give us a bit of an overview of how Generali perceives the opportunities of the Metaverse. Like Abby already mentioned, at the end, we're going to have time to open the round to answer and discuss your questions. So really feel free to post any questions you might have directly into the chat. Right, so I'm Simon. I'm working as a project lead at HITS, and as such, I work on different innovation initiatives, which also include projects in the Metaverse. I've previously worked as a consultant in a Web3 focused consulting firm, as a business analyst and project manager in the finance industry. As a gamer, I'm very familiar with virtual worlds and experiences with lots of different users. I first crossed paths with the Metaverse topic as we understand it today in 2017 when I got interested in decentralized Metaverse platforms which are based on blockchain technology. I've been working on the topic in a professional environment for the last 2 years, and I've worked on different concepts and use cases for the Metaverse. So why are we talking about the Metaverse? What makes it relevant for all of us? In general, I think it's safe to say that the Metaverse offers a lot of potential to reshape the way we work, learn, and socialize in the future. According to a report of McKinsey, the value of the Metaverse could reach approximately $5 trillion by 2030. This includes a very broad variety of different industries and use cases. And once we look at the definition or some of the definitions of the Metaverse, it should become clearer what this means. In 2022 alone, different companies invested a lot of money into building the Metaverse. Investments doubled from around $60 billion in 2021 to over $120 billion in 2022. Meta, or Facebook alone, invested almost $14 billion in 2022 to develop their own VR headsets and Metaverse applications. Although we now see that the recent hype around the topic is starting to cool off, the possibilities and the potential benefits still remain. So what exactly is this Metaverse that these companies are betting on? I'm sure that by now every one of you has already heard the term metaverse quite often, but do you really have a clear understanding of what it's supposed to be? It's relatively difficult to define what the metaverse actually is. Maybe that's because it's more of a concept or a story rather than a specific technology or platform. And I think if you were to ask 100 people for a definition, you'd probably get 100 different answers. It's quite comparable to coming up with a definition of what the internet is. The metaverse is often described as the next iteration or evolution of the internet. It's sometimes called the internet in 3D, or as Mark Zuckerberg describes it, it's an embodied internet where instead of just viewing content, you are in it. Personally, I would define the metaverse as a network of immersive, interconnected virtual worlds and experiences with their own economies, rules, and cultures where people interact with each other and the virtual environment. I know this sounds a bit theoretical and maybe a bit dry, but I try to define what the metaverse is in an accurate but still generic enough way to include different relevant concepts. The concept of digital worlds and experience is not really that new. In fact, it has been along for a very long time. The gaming industry has been working on real-time simulations, experiences, and virtual worlds since the 1990s. They've been creating single and multiplayer games with their own rules and mechanics since then. Until today, graphics have improved a lot from text only to 2D and 3D graphics, and have since also extended into virtual reality. This has added a lot to the immersive feeling of these games and has drawn more and more people to them. The term metaverse itself was first mentioned in the novel Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson in 1992. In his book, he describes the metaverse as a three-dimensional virtual world where users create avatars to represent themselves and interact with other users in real time. It's imagined as a place where people can engage in a wide range of activities, from virtual business meetings and social gatherings to virtual combat and gaming. To me, that sounds very close to some of the definitions we're using today. In 2003, the platform Second Life launched, which some of you might still be familiar with. This quickly became a very popular interactive virtual world with around 1 million active users per month. It's often seen as an early example of what the metaverse could be as we understand it today. World of Warcraft became one of the first highly successful games with a massive online community that spends a lot of time in this virtual world playing, earning, collecting, and trading virtual goods in the form of digital gear, weapons, and consumables. Its in-game currency can even be traded for real money, although it's only traded on rather shady websites and could even result in a ban from the game since it's considered illegal by the developers. In 2015, Decentraland was launched. It allowed people to buy parcels of land of their virtual world in the form of non-fungible tokens. This allowed creators to build and monetize their own properties and experiences. The use of NFTs made it possible to create, buy, and sell virtual goods like wearables, virtual land and properties, tickets, and other stuff in a transparent and more reliable way. The platform is governed by a decentralized organization and controlled by a lot of different stakeholders who vote in decisions around the platform. Right now, virtual worlds and experiences are making their way into the corporate world and to a much broader audience. But why now? What has actually changed in the last few years? On one hand, we've seen technological advances which enable a lot of new or improved metaverse applications. Improved VR and AR, as well as 3D rendering technologies, made it possible to create more immersive and interactive digital environments with lower effort. These can be experienced through a headset or other devices. And that has paved the way for more immersive and realistic virtual experiences. Also nowadays, VR and AR devices are getting a lot better and are more widely available to consumers for relatively low prices. Advances in AI have made it possible to create more lifelike and responsive virtual characters and environments, which can further enhance the immersive experience of metaverse applications. Blockchain technology, as I already mentioned, is also being used. It's used in things like cryptocurrencies or fungible and non-fungible tokens. The technology can also help to create virtual economies and governance systems in the metaverse. Some projects use blockchain technology to make sure that ownership and control of their platform and assets is shared by many people instead of just one centralized group. On the other hand, we have some social trends that support the adoption of these virtual worlds and experiences. Social media, for example, has created a generation of users who are very comfortable interacting with each other online and have a high focus on their online appearance. This has paved the way for the creation of more sophisticated online communities within the metaverse. The COVID-19 pandemic has further accelerated the existing trend towards remote work and remote collaboration. Metaverse applications could help here to make these interactions more engaging and productive than regular online meetings. The gaming industry, as we already seen, has long been a driving force behind the development of virtual worlds and online communities. The gaming industry creates and improves tools for the creation of virtual experiences, which can simplify the process of creating applications for the metaverse as well. The metaverse also offers huge opportunities for the gamification of traditional content and functionalities. So all of these factors are contributing to the growing interest in the metaverse. And it's likely that we'll continue to see new developments and adoptions in the future. Let's talk about whether the metaverse offers a threat to human connections. With the rise of the metaverse, there have been quite a few concerns that people will become so immersed in virtual worlds that they will lose touch with reality and real-life human interactions. VR and metaverse applications can be highly immersive, so that they feel really real or very close to real life. This could potentially lead to addictions, similar to what we can observe with computers or mobile apps today. Some people might even see the metaverse as a welcome escape from reality, since they can basically be whoever they want to be and do whatever they want to do within the boundaries of the specific platforms. And the anonymity of its users could lead to an increase in cyberbullying and harassment. On the other side, though, the metaverse offers an opportunity for more and deeper human connections. Anonymity, for example, can also have a lot of benefits. If we think about self-help groups, for example, it could help people to open up more than they could in real life. Also, if we remove the visual aspect of meeting new people, we might even get rid of some biases and stereotypes when making new connections. This could lead to deeper connections based on personalities and interests rather than looks. The non-existence of geographical boundaries in the metaverse can also help us to connect with other like-minded people. The increased immersion compared to the internet today can help to make these connections feel a lot more real than the existing online exchanges with chats, posts, or forums. If we simplify the topic, the challenges and benefits are not really that different from the internet as we experience it today. While the internet offers a lot of options for connection, we can also observe the opposite in some cases. At the end of the day, I think it's up to companies to create socially responsible and ethical platforms and applications. And of course, it's also up to users to use these available platforms and applications responsibly, just like any other technology or trend. So let's look at what companies are actually doing in the metaverse right now and what it's mostly used for. As you can imagine, basically anything that is currently on the internet could be transformed into a virtual experience. In this overview, I'm mainly going to focus on use cases which are already used by a lot of different companies. So one of the most obvious use cases is to hold meetings in virtual spaces. That makes online meetings feel a lot more like real-life meetings if users have access to a virtual reality headset. That mainly includes internal meetings, but could also be used for sessions with customers or any other external stakeholders. Then holding virtual events like concerts, product launches, announcements, shows, or conferences can make them accessible for a much wider audience without the need of traveling to a physical location. Creating exhibitions like art galleries, museums, product showrooms, or demonstrations and other educational environments is also becoming quite popular. Knowledge can be conveyed in a much more immersive and lifelike feeling than it would be possible on a traditional website. What's also quite widely used is establishing a presence on one or multiple metaverse platforms, which can then be accessed by its users. Companies who are present in these spaces then often talk about it in conventional media or marketing publications to present themselves as innovative companies to their customers. So this is just a short list of examples that the metaverse can be used for. For example, we are also seeing more and more companies moving into the space of trainings in VR, using the metaverse as a space to sell their real-life products or to create virtual customer service solutions. The future will show what kind of use cases will spark the most interest on the community. So what can companies actually gain from participating in the metaverse? Overall, these virtual worlds, rooms, or experiences offer a new way of interacting with internal and external stakeholders. This can bring a lot of different benefits to companies. First of all, I think it's worth to mention that the metaverse offers the unique opportunity for companies to create immersive buying experience for their customers. Imagine being able to explore a virtual store, try on clothes, or test out products before making an actual purchase. This kind of experience can really enhance the customer's buying journey and make them more likely to make a purchase. In addition, the metaverse can also help companies reach new audiences. This includes the wider geographical range, but also access to a generally younger audience than traditional channels. This can help to make connections with their future customers. The metaverse also allows for new and innovative forms of advertising. Companies can create virtual billboards, sponsor virtual events, and even integrate their products into virtual worlds. This kind of advertising is quite unique and engaging and can really capture the attention of our customers. Finally, the metaverse can also help companies to cut costs. With the rise of remote work, companies can use the metaverse to hold virtual meetings, conferences, and events. This can save companies a lot of money on travel and accommodation expenses, while still allowing them to connect with employees, partners, and customers from all over the world in a very personal way. So I hope I could give you a good overview of what the metaverse is and how it is or could be used by different companies. My colleague M, who is the head of Generali Group Innovation, is now going to give you a bit of an insight about the view of Generali on the metaverse topic before we then move on to answering and discussing your open questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Simon. Hello, everyone. My name is M. I work in the head office of the group. So our team looks at making the company go faster and be bolder when it comes to innovation through methodologies, trainings, funding ideas, but also on bold topics like the metaverse or other big tech trends. We try and digest and make it simpler for the company to go and experiment. So together with Alessio, Matteo, and Fabio, who are here with me, we have been exploring the metaverse topic with the idea of trying to understand what can we as an insurance company do in the space, both in terms of opportunities and threats. So what you see in front of you is our attempt to put some order in the chaos, right? It's a complex topic, as Simon said earlier. 100 different people will give you 100 different definitions. So this is kind of, you know, our way to put some structure around it. The basic assumption, so the starting point for us is not so much a matter of if this is coming, it's more a matter of when and how. And someone pointed it out earlier, right? There is technological readiness, there is social readiness, and the fact that our lives are going more and more into the digital world, that's a trend, you know, which is not stopping. So it's easy to think, you know, it's not so much an if question, is more when and how this will come. So we identified these 5 different areas and their order left to right in terms of maturity. And I think you can easily plot any of the use cases you see around in the financial services sector within these 6 buckets. So the easiest one is on the left-hand side. It's super mature. It's the branding and advertising. So we see every other day there is you know, a new company announcing a new initiative. Retailers here they've been leading in the space, right? We heard of Nike and Gucci. They've been doing a lot of things around connecting the physical world, the digital world, and also, you know, linking it to the Web3 economy. So this is the most obvious one, right? It's where the retailers have started 1 year ago, insurers followed. Now, it's also a very tricky one, right? Because if you are the first mover there, you get a lot of PR, but then if you follow, you don't get, you know, to ride the PR wave. So what do you do? It's very tricky, right? Because if you are selling a piece of paper and a promise, which is what us insurers do, right? It's much trickier than if you're selling a pair of shoes. But I think there still are things that can be done in terms of strengthening your brand and positioning if you link it back to your values and your history, and it provides some sorts of experiences which are enriching for the people that are, you know, living those experiences. I think this is still an area, if done right, where, you know, the insurers and, you know, financial services more in general can have a role. Then we move into the second bucket, is, you know, internal interactions. Simon touched on this. This is, yeah, not just the virtual meetings, but it's also online open collaboration spaces. You can think of, you know, onboarding use cases for HR and training. There are studies that demonstrate how immersive training is much more powerful than you know, remote 2D training, because you have broken the boundaries. You are there, like almost if you are physically in that space. The way your brain processes information means you retain much more of what you learn, and it's a much more enriching experience. So this is where we are seeing a lot of stuff happening. Everywhere you go, the HR people are super excited about this space. It's still very experimental because of the limits of the technologies, but this is, I mean, the area where we see the most happening, because it's ready. You can just switch it on. The technology is there. It's just a matter of, you know, playing a bit and adopt it. Then the third bucket is goes to our role, you know, as insurers in society, right? Are there product services we can build and provide to make the world safer? Well, the answer is yes, right? You can think of things in the metaverse itself. Could be insuring digital assets, this kind of use cases, or you could think of insuring consequences in the real world. of things that are happening in the metaverse. That could be, I was playing one of those games with the VR headset a few weeks back. I was killing zombies and I hit the wall with my fist, right? That was very painful, right? So there's this kind of stuff. Consequences in the real world of the metaverse is not just physical, it could be also psychologically related. It's still not clear what are the long-term consequences of these technologies. So maybe there's stuff that in the non-physical domain. But think as well as I'm a company, I'm a gamer, right? I cannot attend a tournament. Is that a risk that can be insured? Or I'm a company selling stuff in the metaverse, the sandbox goes down for 2 hours. Is that like a business interruption kind of risk that can be insured? So there is a lot here that can be done, and we have probably identified 100 use cases in the space. Now, this talks very much to the appetite. So each company has a different appetite. Clearly, the world of digital assets, because you don't have historical data, is very tricky to understand what the real risk is. So I've seen very few companies doing stuff in that specific space. But maybe you have already some cyber products, or you have already some business interruption products, which you could extend to cover metaverse related stuff. So I think what we will see there is more, we have core products, maybe we extend those rather than big incumbents starting doing, NFT insurance. Those we see them more in smaller companies or, startup world, limited use cases with, limited risk, maybe with some capacity behind it. That's what we see. Moving swiftly on operations. This is about using immersive technologies to improve the way we do business. We have seen use cases of digital consultations for pre-sale. We have seen, I'm not a bit skeptical, but sales distribution to immersive environments, possibly, I don't know. But also the world of claims. Can we use some of the immersive technologies to streamline the claims process? Possibly. Again, I don't know. Then there's also the world of digital assets. Digital twins. Some argue it's not metaverse. Let's park that for a sec. But digital replicas enhanced with IoTs and data probably can help you either prevent risks from happening, or even before you subscribe a risk, to better understand what is the exposure. Getting a better understanding of reality means you can price your risks better. So maybe there's also a role there. We are moving, from real stuff on the left into, the futuristic stuff. The last one is, can we use some of the underlying assets like digital assets, NFTs, cryptocurrencies as a new alternative investment asset classes? Again, this comes very immature in a way environment. So insurers are super safe. This might come in the future. Right now is more, wait and see. Underlying all of this, sorry, let me step back for a sec. So if it's true that it's not a matter of if, it's more a matter of how and when, how do you protect yourself as a company? What is your best strategy? So our answer is we should try and build a portfolio of experiments in all these buckets with different approaches, right? When it's on the left, we should be doing stuff on the branding, maybe yesterday, on the internal interactions right now, right? And then as you move on the right, is more, okay, let's monitor, let's study, let's see what happens. But overall, the building a portfolio of opportunities, that's probably your best bet, right? Because you don't know which one of these is going to pay off. So spread your investments in a smart way, but across the spectrum, right? With different levels of involvement. Do stuff when it's safe and mature, monitor where it's still a bit unknown. So yeah, that's a bit of our strategy. So we're in contact with people across the organization trying to build experiments. So you both differentiate your investments, but also you learn a lot along the journey, which is super important in this environment where, there is a lot to be discovered yet. So yeah, going back on the buckets now. So the education, I think, is fundamental to instruct that portfolio, right? The idea here is to expose the people within the company to what the metaverse is, what the opportunities are, what the threats are, and then they can form ideas into their minds which will fit the above buckets. So that's our strategy. And then obviously we have a lot of other tools like the Innovation Fund, which can support some of those initiatives to building proof of concepts and experiments for real. So it's a combination of some tools we have on the side, not on this slide, and the education that builds the portfolio in the buckets above. And this is our strategy right now. Go broad and experiment with different appetite. Do on the left, monitor on the right. Now, for the next slide, this is the elephant in the room. Does it still make sense to talk about metaverse? My short answer is, yes and no. So yes, yes is is a matter of if. So it's a matter of when and how, not a matter of if. I strongly believe that, and that because again, our lives are going digital. This trend is not going to stop. The younger generations, they have a much more blurred line between the digital and the physical world, right? So it's inevitable that our lives are going digital. So to me, yes, right? A lot of the underlying technologies are not going away, right? We still keep investigating. On the noise, maybe we shouldn't be. We should stop talking it metaverse, right? The term is overabused. And everyone associates metaverse with meta, and then they say, oh, but then meta is failing, so metaverse is failing. I think maybe maybe we should find a new term. I don't know whether it's immersive internet, digital reality. I don't know. Maybe the metaverse term itself is a bit inflated, but the underlying tech is there to stay and is maturing, and the fact that we are going more digital is a trend we can't stop. So I think, yes, we should keep investigating with the portfolio approach.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this overview of Generali's view on the metaverse. I think we can now move on to some questions and maybe a bit of a discussion.
All right. So everyone, if you have questions, again, you can raise your hand and ask them yourselves, or you can write them on the chat and I can read them for you. All right, so we have one from Thomas. He says, beside companies exploring metaverse with the first use cases and its potential, I'm wondering if there is already some research available with regard to end user needs in this space. Example, the first Swiss insurance companies offering consultation in the metaverse, but is there in parallel some data insights into the end user side and how they see this trend and what specific needs they have in their website space for the future? So it's a very long question. Hopefully.
Apologies for that. So basically,
no,
the short thing
it's all right. You can explain it yourself.
The short question is basically we're talking about use case. I understand that. What I'm trying to understand is if you guys know if there's already some research about whether some of these use cases are kind of validated or whether they really also then make sense from an end user's perspective. Because just because you can build it and there is use case doesn't mean it's kind of accepted on the end user side or really the need. That's what I'm trying to understand, if there's some data or research already available and whether you guys know that.
So we've done a bit. It's not super extensive covering the whole spectrum, but I can give you a couple of data points or points for starting thinking. So we've done some research on the Gen Z. So the world of digital identity, so protecting my digital identity, and the world of protecting my digital assets. There seems to be an appetite there. Now, how you go about ensuring that and distributing that, that's another topic, but there seems to be a bit of appetite in the younger generations. Historically, they are not the key buyers of insurance. That's why distribution, it's another topic. On the use case you were mentioning, the Swiss insurance company, I was on a panel with the chief. I was moderating a panel with the chief marketing officer of that company about their own mission. It's again, it's an experiment. They are positioning themselves as an innovative company. People, they visit the space. The way it works is basically you can book an appointment, and instead of picking up the phone or doing a Zoom call, you would bring your avatar in this nice environment, super shiny, and you can have a conversation there. By their own admission, they've seen a few hundred users, so it's not like taking off massively. My simple explanation is, well, first of all, you have only 30-40 million advisors around the world, so it's not widespread. It's not like we have billions of phones. We don't have billions of advisors yet. But also, who's buying insurance? It's maybe older. They might not own an advisor, or they might not be willing to go there. So it's great they're experimenting. I'm a bit skeptical about these visual agents distribution through immersive environments. I would be happy to be proved wrong, but at this stage I'm a bit skeptical.
Maybe to just add one point to M's answer. I think that's exactly. I mean, there is some data available on like needs in general, but I think that's exactly where experiments come into play, right? And why they're so important. So at the end of the day, I think companies need to try different things and see how their customers react to what they're building. And I mean, similar to what we see today with any product or application that's being built, it needs to be validated by the market at the end of the day. And so I think, again, that's where experiments come into play and why this is so important to, well, try different things.
Great. So basically you're saying that the experiments could be an approach to really kind of get kind of hands-on validation of needs as well. And it could be kind of a goal then of such a kind of POC or pilot. Yeah, so thanks for that. Helpful.
Yes, and it can also be, it doesn't have to be expensive to try these things, right? I mean, there are quite simple ways to just give it a try. At the end of the day, it's all about willingness of an organization or of the people within the organization to try this stuff. Yeah.
All right, so we have several questions in the chat, but also Yves is raising your hand, so you're more than welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, hello everyone, Yves Massey here.
Hello.
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Perfect. Yeah, so for understanding, I'm in the blockchain space, in fintech and insurtech, and companies like Sui blockchain and Aptos blockchain, which are derivatives of Facebook, are very active in the virtual reality space. Sui, for example, has an open source Unity software development kit involving blockchain. And that means that a lot of NFTs will basically be present in these virtual worlds. So have you seen insurance companies move to using VR as part of their workflows at the moment? Or is this something that's like Facebook Horizon Spaces or Facebook Horizon Workspaces? These are two major tools that, for example, my company we use internally for meetings remotely with people on different continents to save on, say, travel. So my question is, how are you seeing insurance companies actually using VR internally from what you've seen?
Yeah, I think so. There are a few. Well, it's always from outside, right? I can talk about what we are trying to do, but from other competitors, other players, you can only see, from outside. But what I see that's happening is using the tech internally for, collaboration. You do see a few examples. Ergo, they're very vocal about it. They have, and it's two ways. One, small meetings like the Horizon workrooms. People are using that. So there is teams that are using those, limited situations where we can have this meeting online. And I can also maybe pick up on Sorin's question in the chat. So why would you do that, right? Why would you get into the metaverse? You only get there if it's a better experience than the alternatives you have, right? So the alternatives now are either I travel there and pick up a flight, carbon emissions, it's not sustainable, also, it's tiring, or I can have an headset. Now, if the headset gives me that sense of presence and being there in the moment with the other person, I think that's better than Zoom. So it's a compelling experience, right? And we try this all the time with Simon. We have, you put your VR headset on and you are there in a room with another person, despite being thousands of kilometers away. I think that's a compelling use case. Now it clashes with the technology. It's bulky, it's heavy. After half an hour, if you're not used to it, it gets tiring. So it's these things, right, where is great is remote meetings in presence at kilometers of distance versus the technology is is still bulky. It's not great, right? So there needs to be technology needs to get better for that to be widely adopted. So insurers are using that examples in that space. We do it as well. We have seen examples of town halls. So you do this meeting for all the employees. You do it in this virtual environment. And you reach the whole population without saving on costs. Now, if you have the headset, it's great. You have the sense of presence. If it's just an avatar on a screen, I will argue that's not better than Zoom. Actually, it's even worse than Zoom in a way. So I'm not sure whether if you don't have the headset, that's a compelling use case. So yeah, these are the areas where we see most of the use cases, because it's easy. You switch it on, it's there. AXA made a splash a few weeks back. They launched a new mini game where there is this metaphor that you go through an adventure. You have the shield. The shield is a metaphor of insurance. You go through these steps and battles. So that's more on the branding and advertising, getting the younger generations more familiar with the concept of insurance. So it's a mix of, in my opinion, it's a bit of PR, a bit of maybe catching future generations. These are the most interesting use cases. The branding and advertising, the use for interactions is where we see the most. And then you start moving into digital assets, NFT. There are very little examples there, at least not many from the big incumbents.
Okay, just quickly, I would say that, in Spaces, there's a Spatial, that's the application that has NFT and an NFT gallery that's open source. I will mention that I have used VR and drones for remote surveying of property in emerging markets in developing countries, for example. So the fact that drones can actually go and give presence to insurance underwriters and surveyors could potentially be a very good use case as well, but that's just an idea.
Yeah, you could argue, is that Metaverse though, right? So to me, why would you want to go into this virtual reality? It's only if you have an experience which is enriching, right, and leaves you with something. You're a better person after you leave that experience, right? That's a key element of why we might be want to use these technologies. With also another side of the coin, right? So if you are in that virtual environment, you can have a really good experience. If something bad happens to you, you cannot unforget something happens, in real life, and you cannot unforget what something bad happens in the metaverse. So I think there is also that element, but the social interaction, it's a key element. So we are seeing when I see the most active things, besides the retailers doing their own things, the way people are trying to push the technologies around two routes is the gaming. So you got all the apps you see. If I go on the Meta Store now, you see two kinds of apps: it's gaming or is interaction and collaboration. These are the things which are more mature to me.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So we have several questions in the chat as well. I see Valentina Coco has her hand risen. So Valentina, would you like to go ahead and ask your question? Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. I was also writing it, but then I also raised my hand. I guess it's a bit more of a side topic for the technology group, but my concern and my worry, having experienced VR and having experienced Metaverse and VR, is that it is a lot less inclusive than any other technology that we have. It doesn't cater to anybody who's audiovisually impaired. At the moment, we don't have as much technology as we do have on laptop translation and audio support and whatever conversions. And it creates a whole of additional issue on people which are sensory sensitive, or even just extremely sensitive, getting dizzy. I've tried it. I could not absolutely use it. Now, I know it's, and I'm thinking for a gaming situation, that's not a problem because it's a personal choice how you want to game. And you could say we need to be inclusive in gaming, but that's a different thing. But if we start discussing this as a technology for collaboration, for enhanced user experience and a plus, and especially employees, aren't we then discriminating and excluding more? And is there anything being done in the space to make it more adaptive to people?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question. And I mean, we need to consider that it's still a relatively young technology and it's still quite in an experimental phase. But we're already seeing different applications, for example, spatial that was mentioned earlier. So they have already created like real life subtitles, for example. So that's one thing. And the other thing is also, I mean, it could even be an opportunity to be more inclusive because you can really customize these experiences as far as you'd like or as far as the project budget allows it, right? So for example, you could have an option to tune down visual effects. I mean, you can control the sound in that sense. So there is a lot of opportunities for real customization to cater to different needs of different people in that sense. I would dare to say that we're just not quite there yet. So right now, these applications are normally being developed for like the wider market. And since, I mean, this normally impacts a relatively small proportion of the population, I would dare to say that for now, they're probably being sidelined a bit. So yeah, that's possible. But there is a lot of potential to be even more inclusive in that sense in the future.
Thanks. Good to know. I wasn't aware. Great learning.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Good. Thank you, Valentina. All right. We also have another question from Sulma. What are the regulation views towards the metaverse? Are you aware of any guidelines or rules that have already been announced?
So, I mean, I've not seen anything officially, you know, from governments, anything specific. I might be not up to date fully, but I have not seen anything. There are, however, a lot of committees looking at ethics and implications of immersive technologies. So there is a lot of, you know, associations trying to set some ethics standards, some kind of self-regulation. There's quite a few of those. It's a massive topic. First, because we don't understand exactly what the implications are. We haven't finished figuring out, you know, moderation of contents, bullying, and that kind of stuff on social media, traditional social media. And now we have this thing which is much more is immersive. So you're there. It speaks more into your emotions, right? It's dangerous, right? And it's a massive topic. Some efforts on the, you know, self-regulation side. Not 100% sure. I haven't seen anything publicly on the public side, but yes, it's a massive topic.
All right.
I mean, just to add to this answer, maybe real quick. I mean, the same rules and laws apply as we have them with the internet today. So, I mean, it's since let's say the metaverse is basically just in a simplified way. It's just a different way to view the internet or content or applications that are there. I think the same rules still apply. And I mean, there are also options for moderation, let's say, functionalities. So for example, if we look at VR chat, which has been there for years. I mean, there are pretty good moderation techniques, and also like reporting of harassing users and stuff like that, which are getting banned. So there are like mechanics to trying to control this, but like Em mentioned, I mean, we have the same issues with social media, for example, as well. So yes, in conclusion, like the same rules apply today as they are in the known internet, let's say.
I think the discussion now is you got it focusing on the technical side, but the question was about the contracts. I mean, we are supposed to be selling insurance over this platform. That means a contract in real life, which should be protected by real life laws and regulations. What the platform does inside for banning and whatever might actually even hurt some of the business, but that's a completely different ballgame and nothing to do. And blockchain and everything is not even regulated, so we are not expecting any protection from that side.
Yeah, no, I've personally not seen anything specific on Metaverse, so I think it will be just the current regulation existing might apply by extension to the digital worlds. I've not seen anything. I might not be up to date fully, but I've not seen anything specific for Metaverse. And as you pointed out, yes, we are struggling to regulate blockchain, which has been around for many years. Yeah, this stuff is all new. So, and we know that the regulators are not the most, the fastest to react.
Yeah, I mean the way this works today is normally that the metaverse itself is being used as like a sales channel, and then to actually close a contract, you normally go outside of the metaverse into the traditional world. Well, internet, email, or whatever, and then you close the contract on this side. So even if we look at spatial, for example, where you can look at NFT galleries in like this virtual environment, when you want to purchase an NFT, you're basically still leaving spatial as a VR application. You're going to, for example, platforms like OpenSea, where you then buy the NFT and close the transaction. So that's where we kind of bridge VR worlds with the traditional internet to then actually make the contracts official.
All right, it's a great question. Thank you, Solma. All right, so we have one last person with his hands up, but I don't know your name, so it's P something is your number, your P number.
Okay, hello everybody. Maybe it's Patrice. Maybe it's Patricio.
You can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hello. I'm heading the Generali Academy in Switzerland, and so therefore I'm extremely interested what Metaverse could bring in terms of learning and education. Mm-hmm. Why I'm extremely interested? Because now it's more than 20 years that I am confused, because in 1995 we started developing the first e-learning platforms. And I remember around the year 2000 when I was attending some events and congresses. I remember all these hype companies that developed this platform said, yeah, listen, in 5 years, more or less in 5 years, you will have everything e-learning. We have to close the physical classrooms because we will be all on this platform learning, digital learning. No? And now it's more than 20 years that passed. And I mean, you guys, you can say it from your own experience, where we landed so far in digital learning. I mean, we have nice, wonderful platforms, of course, that we didn't have 20 years ago, intuitive platforms, but the learning experience itself. If you look to your personal experience, you access a platform and I mean, did we really make these big moves in 20 years? I mean, I still have people that say, hey, come on, when do you organize the next physical course, please? Take me away from the screen, please, and let's come together physically and smell each other and touch each other. So that's why I'm extremely interested in seeing where is really the next step that we can do in learning. So in the learning experience, first of all, because we have two components. We have the learning experience, and then we have the learning process itself. Because I mean, learning is efficient learning, and really, how do we learn as human beings? Is the gamers here in this discussion? They know how they learn. They learn with basically with two components: repetition, to get to become, I think, a good gamer. You have to repeat what you do. This is first thing. And the second thing is embodiment. Embodiment means, look, I'm making always the example of a football player, or if you have to learn to swim. What do you have to do when you have to learn to swim? You have to embody what you do. So you have to do it by yourself. You have to touch it. You have to feel it. That's the natural process. And so I'm really wondering, and looking for better solution that we have today. Because, you know, creating a common space, you can do, we have software to create a common learning spaces. It's not a problem. So this cannot be the killer application of Metaverse. We have fantastical software applications today from different companies that give you the impression to be in the same room. Even Teams, you know, even Teams has some features like that. So what do you think is really Metaverse giving us as a surplus to reach the next level?
I think we are almost up with time. I think that the answer is you know, the embodiment. So yeah, it's true. Teams brings people together, but when you put the visor on, you are there. It's like it's almost like you're physically there, right? So it's not saying we should be doing all the trainings using VR in the future. Instead of it's not as the physical presence. We still need to have, you know, meet each other. Commingle in the real life. That's fundamental for us as humans. But you know, the visors is a good compromise. You know, it brings you together almost physically. The embodiment. There's this guy. I was talking to him a few weeks back. It does boxing. He never done boxing in real life. He started doing boxing in the metaverse. And after a few weeks, after a few months, he went to the park and he started, you know, boxing, like playing with another guy, random guy from the street. And at the end, he won the fight. And the random guy he met, it turned up, he was a professional boxer. And he thought, the random guy from the street thought the guy who trained in the metaverse, he was also a professional.
A professional.
Yes. So there is a sense of embodiment. There's a physical, or be physically there. I think that's the powerful aspect of it.
All right. Thank you for your questions. I mean, even as we can see, the metaverse is such a broad topic, and it can have so many possibilities that it could just be endless. But for today, only for today, we have to wrap it up. And I'm sure that this topic we can keep going, which also gives us more time in maybe a next Insurtech Breakfast, and we can go in deep to keep talking about the metaverse and its possibilities, which I think it would be a really good option for everybody. Nevertheless, we have to wrap it up, and we have to say goodbye for today. Nevertheless, I want to thank Simon and Em for being such great troopers and explaining so many things to us. We usually, as a tradition here in Insurtech Breakfast, we usually turn on our cameras for a quick photo, if that's all right for everybody. So I'm just gonna, if that's okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing, if that's all right, Simon, so we can see everybody. Okay. All right, now I can see everyone. Cool. All right, so I'm just gonna take a quick snap.
Do it.
Okay, here we go. Big smiles, everybody. Okay, thank you so much for being here and joining us today. Just as a reminder, the next Insurtech Breakfast will be about art and technology, so the digital fakes created by AI, and it will be on Friday, the 14th of April, and we will have one of our colleagues, Karina. She's the CEO of Art Recognition, one of the startups working with us continuously in our innovation garage. So once again, thank you so much for joining and hope to see you soon. And yes, enjoy the rest of your day and hope you had a great time with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you so much.
Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Bye.